Welcome back to the High School Fan Zone on a Wednesday night. We're going to finish up like we always do with Liberty in the Patriot Fan Zone. We're changing it up a little bit. Joe Sexton, I did get to see Joe Sexton. I'm starting to worry about him and think I was going to have to put him on the side of a milk carton. I hadn't seen him in a while. But I found him. All's well. But I told him I wanted to talk basketball with Parker Hicks today because first day of practice today?
First day.
First day of year 2 for you.
Year 2 at Liberty, year 3 overall.
Well, that's right. I forget about that year at Levelland.
Yes, sir.
Which they may not want to. They probably want to keep remember that. Now you get to play him
twice.
At least twice.
At least.
Are you excited about that aspect of it?
I am. I got to know some really good people there. Got to know the principals and obviously Coach Leong very well, and I got nothing but respect for them, and I'm excited to be able to go back there and play in that gym again.
They've had some good years. I don't know that Morgan Glaspie's as excited about playing the Levelland girls because that's a whole different beast there.
Yeah, Clay Barnett, he's special in what he does. I really enjoyed getting to know him and learn from him my first year. And, even to this day, we'll try to meet up about every other week and just go eat dinner. We became good friends. We love golfing together, and I got a lot of respect for him and his program because they're good every single year.
I think we talked a little bit about this last year. You're from Graham? No, you're from...
I'm from Decatur.
Decatur. I knew it was one of those. So I probably just made a lot of people in Decatur mad.
No.
Which is obviously not far away, but it's also a little bit different. In watching them last year beat Estacado, they know their basketball there. I think we talked about when you moved out here and you kind of got the lay of the land, and it's always struck me going back to 1997 just how big girls basketball is out here and how good it is everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's just something about that West Texas tradition, and I don't know if it started with the Lady Raiders back when they won their championship in 93.
That's a good place to start.
92.
Actually, probably goes back to the Flying Queens.
Wayland Baptist. But yeah, it seems like from this area, there's always a state champion, from 1A to 4A. And it seems like they're there every year, and there's just something about it, and that's what's awesome about being here and being around the game of basketball.
Well, so this is 2 nights of basketball in a row. Last night, Aaliyah Chavez and Ambrosia Cole were in, and we kind of talked about in 5A, I think 4 or 5 in the TABC preseason rankings, 4 or 5 are from Region 1. Yeah. And that's not all West Texas, but Lubbock Cooper 2 years ago played for a state championship. Monterey, I'll be shocked if Monterey doesn't get to the state tournament this year.
Oh, me too. Got the number 1 player in the nation,
And Ambrosia Cole, who
her senior year, she's about ready to
good as anybody else.
Exactly.
You guys are building some tradition too.
We're trying.
And I actually, when I talked to Morgan today, I actually got your team and hers confused a little bit. You guys, and now I remember, you were in really good condition to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Wound up in a seeding game for playoffs, but you kind of limped to the finish line a little bit, which you had freshmen and sophomores, and we're not going to talk about that anymore because they're not freshmen and sophomores, but I think Joe's going through this a little bit this year with their first varsity season. You hit a wall, and it's not a physical thing necessarily. We brought you up when I was talking to Joe. Those kids were used to, okay, here's the end of the season.
Right.
We can just get to that finish line and go do fun stuff. Not when you're a varsity.
Yeah,
kid.
When you're a varsity, there's no finish line.
Yep. You want to extend that finish line.
Exactly. And you described it. We definitely limped to the finish line last year in our season. We finished 1-9, which is not very good, and so that's obviously a point of ours going forward is we got to be able to finish better. But we have that year under our belt. We could. I say we didn't really like to use it, but every kind of like, the freshman, the whole freshman and sophomore, but there's no more of that anymore. We're older. You've got a year under our belt, and so we're ready to go compete in another really good district out here in West Texas. Yeah,
and not only is Levelland a team those guys out on the east side pretty well too.
Yeah, Coach Wag he's special. He texted me actually last night just wishing me luck for the season and how proud he was of me, and that means a lot for me. Just being a third-year head coach and new to the area, to hear that from really maybe the top program out here is really special. But yeah, I'm gonna enjoy getting to play him and see him again, just because they kind of set the expectation of that district, and they're good every year, and that just credit to what he does.
Yeah, and they may have their best group of 3 guys since their state championship season.
Yeah, they have 3 guys that, when I was at Levelland, my year at Levelland, they were sophomores then. And you could tell they were young. They're kind of battling what I'm battling right now, and we were actually able to beat them one time. But, guys like Moses and who's the Perez,
Shakur,
Tim Perez, and those guys are seniors now. And so, they're going to go out fighting like crazy, knowing it's their last year together. So,
well, back to you guys. You can't the freshman and sophomore thing is not there because it's not there. I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense, but the fact is you guys have had a year to get physically bigger. I mean, just nature. Mm-hmm. They've had a weight room. That's something that Joe was in a good mood about today. He wanted to show off his new weight room, which I'm assuming you guys can sneak in there if you need to.
If we ever need to. We got a good little spot in the gym there.
There you go. And they're more mature. I've got a 16-year-old at home, and I think back to when she was 14, how different she is just and now you've got kids who they understand it more. They understand preparation. Caitlin planted this seed with me last fall, and you guys talked about it. You don't have to watch video when you're an 8th grader getting ready for a game. You just show up and play. You get to varsity, you've got to start watching video. You've got to start game planning. That seed's there for your guys now. They know all that a little bit better.
Yeah, and like you said, they've matured not only physically, but I think as a varsity athlete too. I mean, they know the expectations, and it's not just with our program. They're now those that played baseball were varsity baseball. Now they played varsity football, so they have that varsity experience. And kind of what was odd for us, we were the first team to do it.
Yep. And we're going to talk about your baseball guys in particular here in a minute.
Yeah. So just having that experience, it's kind of, one more year under your belt, and it seems like an extra year just because we started earlier, but we're excited to come back.
And they get started. I'll have the schedule. I'll call the schedule. They started practice today, and it comes quick. That start of the season pops up very quick. We'll be back to talk more about Liberty boys basketball. The Patriot football team is off this week. Lost to Borger 53-24. Joe's going to turn his radio off now. Lost to Borger 53-24 last week. Come back, and they play those Matadors on November 1st in their next district game. So they've got some getting ready to do. We'll be back after the break on the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Keeping you up to date with the Patriots on 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Patriot Fan Zone. I'm going to say the score one more time just so I can maintain my friendship with Joe Sexton. Patriot football team lost 54-23 to Borger, and that's the last time we'll talk about it. They come back and play Estacado on November 1st. After their bye week, he was very excited, though, Parker, when I went and saw him today. And you hate to lose a game at all, but especially that big. But then those guys got to come back this week, and their weight room is in place. So there's something.
Some buzz in the air still.
Yeah. And you've coached high school kids long enough to know that also high school kids, the shelf life on being down about a game is very small.
Right. And, people are probably wondering what weight room we're talking about, but the weight room in the field, just that little being able to lift in your own field house for the first time is just going to take the edge off a little bit. And I'm sure those football guys are like, we made it, everything's here like we want. And, I know Coach Sexton's going to have those guys ready. I respect him tons. And, they got a good group of guys, and they're just trying to figure it out. And you can, if you go, you'll understand. But the one thing those guys don't do, they don't quit.
No.
They'll keep fighting.
They're on the roller coaster right now, which you mentioned. You got the first test ride.
Yeah, we lived on the Texas Giant last year. So.
Yeah, and that's another step of growing up is maybe the valleys won't be as low, maybe the peaks won't be as high with this group. Now you've got some guys still playing that are playing football. I know Luke is out there. Luke's a really good football player.
Really good.
Who else?
So right now I have about 7 or 8.
Okay.
Obviously Luke Livingston, who's a really good safety. He's turned it on. Jackson Funk, Colton Bouchard, Pierce Ferroni, those type of guys that you love seeing out there and playing, and love how they're getting that experience and that they're going to bring it over. And shockingly, we've lost some guys that I wish we didn't have, but they've just kind of find priorities in their own thing, which I don't blame them at all. I did it when I was in high school, but we're going to have some guys with some new roles. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm excited to kind of get everybody together again.
And I know you've got a couple of freshmen coming, one that's in football that's already kind of carved a place out there.
Yeah, I actually had 3 freshmen play with our varsity this summer, and I thought those 3 freshmen, you could tell they were freshmen, but they picked it up quick. And so I'm excited to get those guys back. And kind of our breakdown now is we have 3 juniors, 3 sophomores, and 3 freshmen. And so it's like, everybody's like, yeah, you're going to be a 1 year older. I said, yeah, but we're still young. A third of our team is freshmen, and 66% of it is underclassmen. So, but even guys like Coleman, who's getting the varsity experience.
Coleman Hendricks, whose big brother
is playing football at Tech. Yeah,
right.
Big time. Comes from a family.
I met Grandpa not long ago. Grandpa was very proud of his grandsons.
Oh yeah, and just him getting that experience right now in football is exciting, because when the lights come on, and I don't have to worry about him being nervous about his. I mean, he might be nervous for his first varsity game, but being under that pressure before is definitely going to help that situation.
It's incredible to watch him. Joe said that teams are already game planning for him in football. Mm-hmm. He's, 14, 15?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to pull the curtain back, Parker had me talk to a couple of guys, and Coleman was one of them this summer for my website. And the thing that struck me about Coleman is he may only be 14 or 15, but the first thing he said, or one of the first things he said, is we've got to be better inside. I've got to be one of the guys they come to and look for the ball inside. He didn't wade in slowly.
Yeah, he's bought in quickly. One of the biggest things I learned from Coach Beard and getting to be with him for 2 years was to have a truth-telling atmosphere.
Yes.
And, and I'm not going to sugarcoat things with those guys. And really, it may not be what you want to hear, but that's what you got to hear. And he's realized that, and he's accepted that role. We finally, our biggest kid last year was 6'2", 6'3" with Levi and Colton, but now we got to, it's good to have some size in there who can maybe alter some shots, and obviously create more of a presence inside, just because I think we were so guard heavy last year. But he knows a recipe for success. It comes from his family, his older brother. His dad actually used to be a basketball coach before he was principal at Lower Bush, and so he knows the game, and he knows the importance of what it takes. But the biggest thing is, I think he's a winner, and you can see that on Friday nights. He just wants to win, and he'll do anything to win. So, and
that's the thing. So, Joe, if you are still listening and you haven't turned it off, I will back up what Parker said. You guys have a lot of kids who I promise we're going to talk about the guys you also have that play baseball. There's a lot of kids at Liberty. People may look at that score and the fact that they're 2-6 and wonder, but those guys are going to be fine down the road. It's just first year. You've got to figure out what you're doing, which Parker went through last year with his guys, and I have a hunch they're going to be a lot different team this year. We'll come back after the break on the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score, talk more to Parker Hicks about Liberty basketball, and try to keep cheering up Joe Sexton as we go.
The Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. Game on, Patriots.
Welcome back to one more segment of the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I'm going to run through the football schedule one more time before I forget. Thursday night, Coronado at Amarillo High, 96.9 The Bull, 7 p.m., Dick Bivens Stadium. Friendships at home against Odessa High, Double T 97.3, 7 p.m. there, 6:30 pregame. Lubbock Cooper at home against Wichita Falls Memorial. That's probably the biggest game in and around Lubbock this week. Right here on 100.7 The Score. And Idalou at Littlefield, 97.7. That's a big one just because those two teams have played together so often and have so much tradition. Who does Decatur play this week? Do you keep up?
Decatur's football district is a district I've never seen.
Really?
They're in there with a bunch of Fort Worth schools, and I think every game they've played, it's been 49-0 at halftime.
They win?
Yeah.
Because they're pretty good at that. I believe they knocked Estacado out in football too, didn't they?
They may have. I know they lost the running back. He's running back at TCU now.
That's him. That was a team that beat him.
Yeah, but he's not back, so it's interesting to see, and it's kind of hard to tell right now just because they're I know they lost early to Brock, but you know how Brock is and everything, so it's a good question. I know it won't be a close game, though.
There you go. Well, your football guys are off, so there's plenty of stuff going on this week at Liberty. I just talked to Caitlin. Did Morgan take care of you at lunch? I asked you when you got
She sure did. to have a coworker like that bring you lunch on the first day of practice is pretty special and something I don't take for granted.
Well, and if there's now, not that you're not intense during games because I've watched you, but the gradients of intensity between you and Morgan just for those 32 minutes. Your blood pressure's, if they took blood pressure for you two, I'm going to guess you'd win that contest.
Yeah, but I think we bounce each other off a little bit. I'm sure officials may not ref our games, so I'm not as much as we're getting after the officials, but we're just constantly saying something.
That's right.
So
if Kelly Robinson
quite the duo. We like to voice our opinions sometimes.
If Kelly Robinson or Oscar Shorten ever come on, we'll talk about how that's good for their souls to referee games like that.
I try to be nice.
There you go. You guys have some guy. You broke down the 3-3-3. Who are the returning guys whose names are going to be familiar to people?
Colton Bouchard. He's a guy that does football, basketball, and golf. Jackson Funk. He started maybe every game but one last year when he's out with injury. Luke Livingston, who I think started every game last year for us. Pierce Ferroni, who kind of started most of the year but really found his role as he came. I think he was our third leading scorer on the year. Then it's got some new guys coming in. We got Jaden Ellis coming back. He
had some moments last year.
Yeah, he did have some moments, and he's another guy that really kind of found his role as we went, and so I'm hoping he takes off from that. But he's another guy that's going to be right there in the mix of things. And then I have a new kid that kind of came in and playing for us, and then those three new freshmen that are going to have a big role. I think I'm going to have 9 guys that I can play every night, and so that's, as a coach, it's a good thing, but it's also like, how am I going to spread up time for everybody? How it's not to make, just because I think all 9 of those deserve to be in the game at some point. So trying to figure out our rotations and our chemistry the first couple of weeks will be fun and entertaining.
And you'll be without a couple of your guys, so that will change things. There's a Tony Wagner thing that he's gotten used to through the years, is coaching those first couple of weeks while he's waiting on football guys to get there. The maturity and growth thing, though, is, yeah, you've got 3 freshmen, but I imagine it's a comfort level for you to the 3 juniors you have. They can, there's no question, they're the guys who have been through it. They can kind of be those leaders and show the young guys, this is how we're going to do it. This is how you're expected to show up at practice. John Wooden's whole thing was teaching guys how to tie shoes the first day. So
right, and it goes back. I have 2 of those juniors who don't play football that are with me all the time, and so that was kind of my message today. Is what we've done up to this, and from here until you guys are going to be responsible with helping me get this across. As far as practice routine, this is how it's going to go. As far as what are we going to do with drills and all that good stuff. So having those 2 upperclassmen in off season, or I say off season, in the period with me right now has been good, because they're kind of getting the first taste of everything before we get all the rest of the crew. So.
Yeah, because off season's over.
There's no more off season. We're in season.
It used to be. I know it used to be more mid-October. My birthday's October 14th, so when I went to Kansas, every October 14th was late night with whoever the coach was. So that's when I always equated with basketball season.
Yeah, it seems like it gets later and later every year. I usually think it was October 15th because that's my brother's birthday, but it just seems like it's a week later, and the next year it might be a week later. But I'm glad it's here. It's been itching at me. I've been ready to get on the court since last February. So
I bet you have. I remember talking to you at the end of last year. So Liberty gets started. I forgot to look up the schedule. November
22nd. Just with our numbers right now, we'll wait till football gets done with their playoff run.
We'll talk more basketball with Parker throughout the season. That's been the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.